What do great managers actually do? In my research, beginning with a survey of 80,000 managers conducted by the Gallup organization and continuing during the past 2 years with in-depth studies of a few top performers, I found that while there are as many styles of management as there are managers, there is one quality that sets truly great managers apart from the rest. They discover what is unique about each person and then capitalize on it. Average managers play checkers, while great managers play chess. The difference? In checkers, all the pieces are uniform and move in the same way. They are interchangeable. You need to plan and coordinate their movements, certainly, but they all move at the same pace, on parallel paths. In chess, each type of piece moves in a different way, and you can't play if you don't know how each piece moves. More important, you won't win if you don't think carefully about how you move the pieces. Great managers know and value the unique abilities and even the eccentricities of their employees, and they learn how best to integrate them into a coordinated plan of attack. This is the exact opposite of what great leaders do. Great leaders discover what is universal and capitalize on it. Their job is to rally people toward a better future. Leaders can succeed in this only when they can cut through differences of race, sex, age, nationality, and personality and, using stories and celebrating heroes, tap into those very few needs we all share. The job of a manager, meanwhile, is to turn one person's particular talent into performance. Managers will succeed only when they can identify and deploy the differences among people, challenging each employee to excel in his or her own way. This doesn't mean a leader can't be a manager, or vice versa. But to excel at one or both, you must be aware of the very different skills each role requires. Americans in the mid-19th century could point to plenty of examples, real as well as mythical, of self-made men who by dint of industry, prudence, perseverance, and good economy had risen to competence, and then to affluence. With the election of Abraham Lincoln, they could point to one who had risen from a log cabin to the White House. I am not ashamed to confess that 25 years ago I was a hired laborer, mauling rails, at work on a flatboat, just what might happen to any poor man's son. Lincoln told an audience at New Haven in 1860. But in the free states a man knows that he can better his condition. There is no such thing as a freeman being fatally fixed for life. In the condition of a hired laborer, wage slave, was a contradiction in terms, said Lincoln. The man who labored for another, last year, this year labors for himself, and next year he will hire others to labor for him. If a man continue through life in the condition of the hired laborer, it is not the fault of the system, but because of either a dependent nature which prefers it, or improvidence, folly, or singular misfortune. The free labor system, concluded Lincoln, opens the way for all, gives hope to all, and energy, and progress, and improvement of condition to all. The suburbs of Las Vegas do not look like the cradle of a revolution. Golden stucco-clad houses stretch for street after identical street, interspersed with gated communities with names such as Spanish Oaks and Rancho Bel Air. The sky is the deepest blue, the desert air is clear and the distant mountains are beautiful. The only sounds are the buzz of a gardener's hedge trimmer, and a squeaking baby buggy pushed by a power-walking mother. The bright lights of Sin City seem a very long way away, yet these quiet streets are being changed by a movement that is gathering momentum across America and around the world, challenging one of the most fundamental of economic relationships, the way we use and pay for energy. There are now more than 7,000 homes in Nevada fitted with solar panels to generate their own electricity, and the number is rising fast. Just 5 years ago, residential solar power was still a niche product for the homeowner with a fat wallet and a bleeding heart. Not anymore. Technology, politics, and finance have aligned to move it into the mainstream. Solar power has become the fastest growing energy source in the U.S. The Home Office's periodic British Crime Survey estimates that the true level of crime, the sorts, anyway, which inform the official figures, is about 4 times that which is registered in the annual statistics. Quite often, especially in the financial services sector, businesses do not report crimes against themselves for fear of lowering their public image. Many citizens today are not insured against car theft or property loss because they cannot afford the premiums, so they have no incentive to tell the police if they become victims. A steep statistical rise in crime can sometimes arise not from a real growth in a particular type of conduct but from a new policing policy. Offenses of lewd dancing rose by about 300% during 12 months in the 19805 in Manchester, but only because the zealous Chief Constable James Anderton had deployed a great many officers in gay nightclubs. Sometimes the enactment of a new range of offenses or the possibility of committing old offenses in a new way, like computer offenses involving fraud and deception, can cause an upward jolt in crime levels. The figures just released show a startling jump in street robbery, but much of this seems to be a very particular crime, the theft of the now ubiquitous mobile phones. Conversely, if crimes like joyriding and some assaults are kept out of the categories measured in the annual statistics, as is the case, the official figures do not reflect even what is reported to the police as criminal. The way that criminal statistics are compiled by the Home Office is also relevant. From April 1998, police forces started to count crime in a way which, according to the government, will give a more robust statistical measure that, under the new rules, crime is recorded as 1 crime per victim. Some crimes, like assaults, have always been recorded in this way, so the main impact of the change will be in the area of property offenses. Shop thefts, for example, where the old rules counted offenders, will now count victims. Multiple thefts from cars in a car park with a barrier were previously counted as 1 offense but are now counted as separate offenses. It might seem a little eccentric, but reviewing your work by reading it aloud can help to identify the woolliest areas. This works best if you perform your reading in a theatrical way, pausing at the commas and ends of sentences. If you run out of breath during a sentence, it is probably too long. You ought to be able to convert your writing into a speech in this way. If it sounds too stilted and convoluted, perhaps you could rework these parts until they sound fluid. It's unlikely that your reader will be fooled by the idea that long words make you sound clever. Cluttering a sentence with too many complicated words can prevent its meaning from being understood at all. A short word is always preferable to a long one. Why should anyone choose the word erroneous over the word wrong in an essay? Usually writers who employ more obscure words are trying to sound impressive, but can appear pretentious. Direct words enable you to control what you are saying, and are not necessarily babyish, but the most appropriate ones for the job. When you read you are writing aloud, you will notice that the key stress comes at the end of your sentence. It is therefore most effective to end with a short and emphatic word to secure your point. Try to resist the impulse to waffle at the end of your sentence by trailing off into qualifying clauses. It might be worth relocating the clause to the beginning of the sentence or losing it altogether if you feel that it adds little to its meaning. Your sentences might be the most grammatically perfect in the world, but still cause your writing to sound wrong if you have misjudged its tone. A colloquial style, which uses slang and exclamations, is an inappropriately chatty tone for an essay. However, style can be equally jarring if your vocabulary is too formal or ambitious for its context. It is much more impressive to make complicated points using simple language and grammar.